Hey everybody, this is Perch, and yes, this video will make a mountain out of a molehill. I admit that out the gate. So please, that I know the reaction to stuff like this. It's like, why? This is just fun. Why are you bothered by it? Well, it's kind of the point of a little bit this video. So this is kind of a hybrid. This is not exactly a review of X-Force number 25. Came out this week by Ben Percy, art by Robert Gill. And this is, it says on the cover, celebrating 25 issues with X-Force's most dangerous mission yet. Now, spoilers, there is no dangerous mission actually in this comic, nor is there any action. This comic will not feature any battles unless you call Wolverine surfing and wiping out action, in which case you do get that scene. Which is a page, but 2 pages of him surfing, 1 page of him wiping out and sinking, which is kind of the thing we're about to talk about. But uh, this comic doesn't feature a battle. The cover shows a bunch of surfers, shooting at Wolverine in something that looks, right out of Point Break. That moment doesn't happen in the comics, and that's pretty. I mean, are we still getting angry about that? Because I mean, that ship sailed a long time. A ship sailed, sank, was the subject of a documentary and a film by James Cameron. It's completely we're completely over that. The celebrating 25 issues with the most deadly mission yet on the cover. The text is kind of doubling down a little bit on deceiving the customer of what's happening, but in general, this story is pretty quick. The basic premise is this. Wolverine wants a surfboard, so Forge builds him an adamantium surfboard. Um, you heard that right. Yeah, don't worry, we'll get back there. Wolverine then goes surfing. He wipes out because apparently, I don't know, the surf is really tough on Krakoa. It's the most amazing surf that will cut through your body and soul if you surf there. He meets up with some other surfers who he assumes are mutants, but they clearly have come to the island or are working for somebody to steal babies. There's a nursery in Krakoa from the aftermath of all of the mutants parties at the Blob's Tiki Bar, and so that intersects with the subplot in the comic. And the subplot is that Quentin Quire, Kid Omega, is dating Phoebe, one of the Stepford, sisters there, and he's getting kind of clingy for old Phoebe's, you can kind of see it. He's like doing, a little light show up in the sky, and the sisters are kind of like, oh, your boyfriend is kind of creepy, and so he takes her on a date, and the date he takes her on is to the nursery where they're going to help the babies along by giving them telekinetic good thoughts, so they get raised up better, and they're happier babies basically. And ultimately this leads to Phoebe breaking up with Quentin Quire because she sees a vision in his head of them as a family with their own baby, and she doesn't want to leave her sisters. Now, it's possible, because the sisters being a little creepy with it, it's possible that this is one of the other sisters who's pretending to be Phoebe to kind of screw with him. But you would think with Kid Omega's powers, he would know this. It's more or less unsettling that you have this Quentin Quire character who's become so domesticated that the entire comic is really just him writing a love note up in the sky using his powers, and then going to to give babies happy thoughts. This is the character who tried to murder Professor X and the whole school. Now, again, people change, sure, but I I mean, I I got no words. Anyway, so the comic is what it is. If you've been enjoying the Krakoan adventures of the X-Men, it's going to fit right in there. You're going to be loving this new world building of cool surf locations in Krakoa. You're going to be heartbroken by the breakup of Phoebe and Quentin, who's one of your favorite couples apparently, and you're going to shake your fist at Wolverine being deceived by a deceptive surfer who was promising him to take him to an even more killer beach, but clearly is just after the babies. That's your comic. And again, if you're enjoying X-Men comics to this point, you're probably going to enjoy this one too. If you haven't been enjoying the X-Men comics to this point, you're probably going to get annoyed and wonder what the hell is going on. Okay, it's pretty much going to shake out that way. So this is where the mountain out of the molehill comes in, because I recognize, I want to put this on the table, because and if you've been into a comic shop and you've been part of these arguments and these conversations, you will, you've heard this one before. But I recognize that in a world where characters can fly around and teleport and go back in time and just anything is possible, getting hung up in the details is a little silly. I grant you, it is. But I find myself, I can't let it, it's not let it go. I can't get it out of my head. How stupid it is that Wolverine is surfing around on an adamantium surfboard. That, that doesn't, okay, so first of all, it would be way too heavy. This thing would sink like a rock. Now they do forge, which by the way, you're having your, oh God, what a colossal waste of forge. He's building surfboards for mutants at this point. That's what it's come to. If there's nothing that kind of you could in one sentence describe for me where things have gone completely sideways in the X universe, it's Forge is building the mutant surfboards. And again, I posted something on Twitter, just this one panel, and people were like, what are you upset about? It's just fun. I think Wolverine surfing is fun. Cool, great, buy it and enjoy it. I'm not stopping you, nor am I saying you're dumb for liking that. It's whatever you want. It's your party. But if somebody doesn't like something, that doesn't mean you have to come running in every time. You'd be like, I don't know why you just can't have fun. Oh, screw you. Seriously, come on. You're being far more of a dick than the person complaining. If your only point in life is to come in and go, I don't know what you're so bothered about. I mean, God, what is the name of that person? You're annoying. That's what you are. You're so annoying. All right, so that surfboard would sink like a rock. I understand it's actually just adamantium edging over a Krakoan balsa core, but as we've established over the last, I don't know, 40 years of comics, that metal is heavy and it would sink. And because it's in Wolverine's body as bones, and I'm not sure, the distribution rate, maybe it's just a tiny, extremely thin coating. And yes, I understand metal buoys float and their metal things can float in water, but this particular metal has been expressly stated to not float at all. It's been one of the dangers of Wolverine, that he can drop like a rock if he's put in water. It's some of the ways that maybe he's come close to being killed. Second, even if it's just a paper thin edging around this surfboard, where did you get all this metal? That's a lot of adamantium metal to get. And earlier in this very run, there was some talk about how hard it was to obtain. By the way, and I think this was answered in the comics, but just putting this out there, when Wolverine dies and is resurrected by the Five in the little mutant gardens thing, where do they get the adamantium to recoat his bones? And does he go through that process every time, or does he just come back that way? Can Proteus just do? I'm sure this has been answered in the comics. I have forgotten what the deal was there, but how does that process go? Where is all this adamantium coming from? I mean, again, you're terraforming Mars, so I'm sure there's a reasonable answer for this. Like, say, suddenly this thing that was super scarce and the cause of many conflicts in the past is you can get Walmart now. It's just right there in the rare metals aisle. You can put that right in your bag and walk out with it. It's super cheap, no problem, barely an inconvenience. It's easy. Is that what's going on? I don't know. Then on top of that, the comic points out how sharp and deadly this surfboard is, because it's adamantium, so therefore it's naturally sharp. Again, that's not exactly how it works, unless, like a complete maniac, you have honed and shaved this into a complete knife edge, because Wolverine's bones inside of his body are not constantly cutting him open from inside. It's all in what you do with the metal. But they make a point of showing that the surfboard is so dangerous that Wolverine just moving his thumb down the edge of it slices it open. And then the next panel shows him carrying it around under his arm to go surfing. And I mean, I don't know. That doesn't that I don't. How safe is that? Like, I think he's cutting the hell out of himself the entire time. And let aside the fact that this comic reveals that Wolverine says that better than fighting or anything else is surfing. I mean, again, I'd like to think I've read the vast majority of Wolverine comics, but I don't remember this deep found love of Wolverine's for surfing being mentioned ever before. I'm trying to think if the only scene I've seen of him surfing, and I'm sure there's been others. I know there's two. I know that during one of the Alan Davis annuals, Wolverine was surfing, but it wasn't actually Wolverine. It was the Impossible Man, pretending to be Wolverine. And I know in one of the Marvel swimsuit issues, I think it was Michael Mignola had a picture of Wolverine holding a surfboard in some beach cargo shorts, and I think, or was it a Speedo? I don't know. One of those. Anyway, those are very different things. I understand. I think that's the only, like, why haven't we heard about this deep fond love of surfing from Wolverine before? Surfing? And I mean, I guess it might fit in with an overall, like, likes to live on the edge death wish, since if he fell into the water, he'd sink to the bottom and die, given the metal in his bones he's now riding around on a surfboard. But what is even going on here? So again, I understand. It's just a goofy thing. Hey, Wolverine surfing. Who doesn't want to see Wolverine surf? That sounds funny. I don't actually want to see Wolverine surf. I'd rather see Wolverine running around cutting people up, but because that's he's the best at what he does, and what he does isn't very nice. It's not what he's the best at what he does, and what he does is shred waves. That's not. I don't know. I don't think that's how it goes. But maybe, again, I'm remembering wrong, and in a future issue, we'll learn that was the way the slogan went all along. I mean, we're reinventing things. Why not? Maybe that's always what it's been. And could be. Uh, I so if you're listening to this right now, I'm sure you've had these moments where you get just hung up on something absurd. It's small. It doesn't matter. It does. I mean, granted, a year from now, nobody's going to be remembering Wolverine and his adamantium surfboard, and none of this is going to count long term at all. This is all just people throwing stuff at the wall because, hey, what if we gave Wolverine a surfboard? Oh, that'd be hilarious. Oh man, I'll bet he'd love to surf. This is a kind of conversation that goes on the X Slack that then makes it into the books, and that's why we are where we are. But again, 10 years from now, not even 5 years from now, none of this is going to matter. So I realize getting worked up by this and saying, it's the classic, like, why are you getting so mad, bro? Why are you getting worked up about this, bro? Just don't read the comic, bro. You're right. You're right. I should just not read this comic. But inherent into the comic reading experience is, every now and then, getting worked up over something that seems absurd and ridiculous. That's actually part of the fun. If you remember going to comic stores back when you would have big debates, it was fun to get worked up about silly random stuff like this. And it's the entire, much of this is the entire nature of why Stan Lee's No Prize became a thing. This was normal comics. You didn't have a bunch of jerks going, hey, you can't, don't be upset by stuff. If you're upset by stuff, the problem is with you, man. Bro, what you doing there, bro, man? It's fun to pick on the little things, as long as, granted, you're not doing it every day and that doesn't consume your whole life. It's a balance thing. But this one, Wolverine with a surfboard, would have been goofy, but the fact that they've got Forge building a adamantium surfboard, I mean, what in the world is going on there? And these are the things where you do wonder what is happening, and it does feel like you're being trolled. I guess that's ultimately where this all comes down to is when you read stuff like this, when you look at the cover and the cover promises, the deadliest mission yet, and then you open the comic up and you get Wolverine surfing on a impossible surfboard, and a breakup between, you know, Quentin Quire and one of the Stepford. Uh, I, I think, you know, you do feel like you're being trolled. It does feel, unfortunately, it does feel like the people at who are doing the comic are like, let's see if we can make the fans, the customers, insane. I'm sure that's not what they're doing. By the way, I don't think that's what's going on. But it does start to feel like that. It does. I understand that reaction completely when you see stuff like this. It makes sense. Um, Again, I think quite the opposite. I think somebody had an idea of like they were just pushing back and forth insane concepts on Slack, and like Ben Percy's like, oh, I know, I'm gonna make him surf, and Leah Williams is like, oh, that would be hilarious, do it, and Vita is like, man, you have to do it now, you've got to do it, and Jordan White's like, what's going on here? I don't understand this technology. Beep boop bop, and then we have the comic. So anyway, what about you? I know I'm making a big deal out of this, but it's silly, right? Feels silly. Thanks for listening.